This play right here is why Myles Adams is making an impact for the Seahawks defensive line in 2023. I'm being a coward by calling him a breakout candidate because I don't know if he's going to break out, man. But of the players that break out that are not necessarily on people's radar, he's showing the signs that those guys do early on. He's had a great preseason run against the run and pass as a 3 technique, 1 technique, a little bit of 4-eye interior defensive lineman. In the rare opportunities he's had in the regular season last year, he made plays. He flashed. There were some moments where kind of showed the limits of his experience, the limits of his skill set, which is really the downsides there are just kind of pure mass, pure size issues. But he's explosive. He's a leverage oriented player. I think he's a smart player and he's got a lot of technique. He'll throw hands for days. So we're going to dive right into his tape and show why I think he can be an impact player for the Seahawks and potentially he might end the year as the third best defensive lineman behind Draymond Jones and Jarran Reed. He might even challenge Jarran Reed, I think. So we're going to start with run defense because I think the most special thing about him is that he's an explosive pass rusher. That doesn't really mean a whole lot if you can't get on the field on early downs. That's where a lot of guys end up providing their value as pass rushers is their ability to rush the passer on rundowns because offenses don't always run the ball on rundowns. Yeah, you can bring out your best pass rushers on 3rd and long, but that's only 200, 300 snaps out of the year. So yeah, we're going to dive into his run defense, what makes him functional there. So we'll start here with the first play that we showed. Um, I'll contextualize a little bit with scheme, just so that we can kind of understand all that he's doing as a player within it. But it's primarily going to be a player breakdown. So right off the bat here, Dallas Cowboys in 22 personnel, 2 backs, 2 tight ends. Seahawks are in base 3-4 personnel, although they're not in a classic 3-4 odd spaced or bare front. They're actually in what is a reduced over. You've got a 1 technique, a shade nose tackle, 3 technique, then like a reduced weekend 4-eye, which is Myles. And they've got the safety rolled down. So they're gapped out. So there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 blockers forming 9 gaps. Seahawks have 9 defenders in the box as primary run fitters. So for every gap formed by the offense, they have 1 defender. They are gapped out. And so because of that, every player up front is able to play a one technique or a 1 gap technique, except for Myles. He is playing a 2 gap technique. The Cowboys have put the corner in the fit here. They've formationally manipulated the defense, the corners in the fit with this nub formation. So to accommodate that, Myles is in a 2 gap stance, a mirror stepping stance. You'll notice that the left 3 technique, 1 foot forward, 1 foot back. He's power stepping. He's 1 stepping. That means that back foot is coming forward, regardless of what direction the blocking flow is. Same with the nose tackle, back foot forward. So that foot is coming forward. Myles, though, his feet are even. So that means he has to read this tackle, read his initial footwork, the tip of his shoulder pad to know which foot he's going to step for. So there's a little bit more reading of the action. And that is to protect Trey Brown because you don't want Trey Brown actually punching the C gap, especially if you get lead there or a pull scheme. So Myles is going to read this play. So he's effectively 2 gapping, playing primarily a B gap player, but he wants to help in this secondary gap, the C gap. He's able to close off this B gap. So they get zone lead, right? So he's closing off the B gap by just taking the air out of it. And then as soon as the ball starts to bend back and declare, he's able to just shed this guy with 1 arm. That's a lot of rotational power. And boom, he's right here in the gap. That's not what a running back wants to see with the 300-pounder squared up with him. Then we see Trey Brown giving him love at the end there. That's because Trey didn't have to do anything because Myles helped him out, did his job for him. So this is kind of down in, down out stuff that you want to see. So now they got him playing 1 technique here. Vikings are in 11 personnel. Seahawks are, what are they doing with their safety? They're dropping their safety down. So cover 3, they get a duo run here. So there's going to be a hard double on him. But because they're gapped out, that double isn't going to stay on him very long. So that means they're only asking him to just kind of hold up, and he's able to create daylight between the double. He's able to doesn't quite drop the outside knee, but he's able to kind of turn to them and fling the center forward, and kind of turn the double into two consecutive one-on-ones. That's how he's going to win doubles, and that's all they're going to ask for him, especially when they got a loaded box and they can take off that double quicker. If it was a lighter box, even if they're playing with gapped up principles, he'd have to hold on to that double a little bit longer, and that's where, if he's gonna be a functional one technique, um, it's gonna be him winning the quick game. He's not gonna be able to win the long game as a one technique or nose tackle the same way Al Woods or Brian Monet would. He's gonna be more like Poona Ford. He's gonna have to win quick and early. Um, this is another example where I think this is a duo run, yeah. And you'll see him. He'll take on the double. He'll kind of turn perpendicular to the blockers. He's able to separate them. You see Devin Bush coming down, relieving that double. And Myles holds up. This is all they're asking for him. So this is functional one technique play from him. Um, that's a lot of poundage coming down on him right now. So he gets lift on the center. He turns his hips to the guard to limit the amount of surface area, and then he's able to split them. He's able to kind of break them up on the horizontal plane, which is, I think, the primary goal there. Again, to kind of turn it into two one-on-ones. So this play though, it's a passable play, but it kind of shows the limits of his natural anchor. The double holds on him a little bit longer. We'll see once I roll the tape. Um, he starts to buckle a little bit. So now the Seahawks are gapped out here, even though they're in too high. The nickel is in the fit. I think they might even blitz him here. But so their base way of fitting it is the nickel just has to fold into the gap, unless they're spiking the outside linebacker, the edge. In this case, yeah, that's what they're doing. So they're gapped out. So for every gap that's formed, they have a primary run fitter, even though pre-snap they have a light box. So that means Myles can just play a one gap technique. Everyone else can just kind of punch their gap. They don't have to kind of play laterally and fall back. Um, so you see he starts to give a little bit, but he holds the point, I think, about as well as they could want here. If they had a little bit better three technique play, they probably would have been okay. Um, but it kind of shows like, yeah, he's not going to be Al Woods. He just needs to be what they're giving him, so long as the scheme around him can hold up. So here is a left three technique. They get a power scheme. The Seahawks have a run fit mechanic where he doesn't need to gain a gap for this to be defended well. They play with their kind of force lever spill, and with Mafe, the 53 here, um, with him hitting the tight end, none of the linebackers have to worry about them getting picked off at the second level, so they're okay. But the point is, if you can get the near end, again, this is you call this a bear front, you might call him a zero technique. Um, if you can get the strong side end to gain a gap on the tackle, then that's just one extra player front side to help kill the play. Because so many like 8, 53, 59, 0, more often than not, really well executed power and counter scheme. One of these guys are getting picked off, and the way they want to fit the run doesn't, on paper, never works out as clean as they want. And really, you need the guys up front to kind of make it work. So um, you'll see here, one, he knows he has a power indicator pre-snap. You've got a wide tight end, you've got a fullback who's sifting around. Um, so he knows something's can happen right off the snap. He's reading uh, the guard blocks away, the tight end's coming down on him, and he sees the quarterback turn toward the running back. So the front side of the play is against the grain of the angle of departure of the interior offensive lineman. So he immediately knows what's happening here. He knows this is gap scheme. So he immediately, instead of trying to keep initial leverage in his gap, he's basically doing what he did in that other play on the backside of that zone play. He's just crossing face on him and working front side. So that's just situational awareness. That's football IQ. And then the strength and technique and reaction time post snap to take advantage of that football IQ. So I mean, he's on the rise of becoming a complete player here. This is another play where, so looking at this picture, it's shotgun, kind of a spread formation. You've got a huge bubble to the B gap because they're in an over front. So initially, you're right away. You're going to think inside zone with the running back just punching, reading right off the nose tackle block and hitting into the B gap. Now, the Seahawks are fitting this with gapped out principles, even though they're two eyes. So you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 blockers presenting 7 gaps, 7 guys in the fit. So everyone gets to play fast, vertically, and aggressively. Right off the snap, he's heavy into his primary A gap, but he reads his pressure key, the guard. If the center is his visual key, the adjacent blocker, and the gap next to him, the left guard is his pressure key. He feels his pressure key leave, so immediately he knows it's a pull scheme. It's not classic inside zone. So he gains a gap. That helps. That keeps him available to play. Available to help make a play. Now there's a pile in front of him, so he's not able to do anything with it. But if there wasn't a pile, he'd be available for it. And had he not gained a gap here, you would have 2 defenders in the backside, a B gap space. So I mean that's just pure power. He gets immediate control over the block right out of his snap. He immediately reads what's happening, and he's just there. Kind of takes a flat power step. I think that's to help him kind of play more of a quasi 2 gap. Maybe he knows what's coming. Maybe he felt the guard was going to leave because normally when you're power stepping, it's more of a 6-inch vertical step. He's more lateral with it. I think that's him trying to brace, trying to stack up the center more. Maybe he thought there was pre-snap. Maybe the guard was going to leave. So that's an interesting way to play a one gap technique, a power stepping technique. I mean, again, I think he's a really smart player. Um, all right, so I think we've established he can defend the run. He's going to be in the early down rotation, and that will allow him to rush the passer. So let's look at some of these pass rush examples. He's on the backside of the protection here, so he knows he has a two-way go. It's just a counter move, like what is it, a double swipe, and he gets vertical into the backfield. This is 300 pounds, quick, explosive hands. His balance to stay vertical in the gap and not get blown off course too much is just it kills the play. He's got a lot of these. Yeah, just beating hands, swipe moves, club moves. This is another play. So he's the nose. He's rushing the A gap. What I love about this play is he immediately reads let's get the end zone angle. He immediately reads if I can get there. He immediately reads the center block away from him. So he's the A gap rusher. Okay. So he reads the center block away, slide away. So he works to the guard, but he expands. Instead of just shooting the gap, he expands, and that opens the A gap back up. So he influences the guard, and then he's able to kind of just snatch him through and pin his arm down. And then he rips through. So and then again, the explosion and the balance to stay on course so he doesn't drift too much and flush the quarterback out. So he's killing plays with pressure, and he's using his understanding of blocking schemes as well as his traits, his explosiveness, reactive time in hands to make a difference. Let's see what this one was. Yeah, so this is him. He stacks up the guard or the center and then just pulls him through and arm over. It's kind of a swim move, and he gets hooked. But he's clean. He's clean into the backfield. This is a clean win. Anytime you're the nose tackle and that's the center, and this is your relationship to the quarterback, you're on the other side of the nose tackle. It's not a good situation. If the coverage is a little tighter or if the quarterback was holding the ball, that's a bad spot to be in. So he can win with a variety of moves. He's really got a tool bag. This is just pure speed. He works into the pocket. The guard does angle him off a little bit. But this is just a counter swipe, rip into the backfield, and that initial quickness is enough to get upfield. So this is another play where, again, A gap rusher. He's a rush nose. It's hard to get interior pressure from the nose. reads the center move, slide away from him. He immediately transitions his eyes and body language to the guard. The guard is sliding to him as well, so maybe a four-man slide. Um, and he's got those hips cranked around. As soon as he beats the hands, he just gets vertical. He doesn't. He even he can feel the center moving away. So he's almost stacked up at the center, and he knows by the time as he keeps churning his legs, the center will be out of the picture. So Um, and then here's just a bonus hustle play, 300 pounds chasing the quarterback to the sideline. And then another one chasing him down short of the third down marker. So I mean, he's got run defense plays against zone stretch, against gap scheme, against uh, other pull scheme. He's got pass rush moves. He can win on the outside. He can win with counter moves from three technique, from the A gap, from nose tackle, and then he'll make the extra plays hunting down the quarterback when the play extends because he's got the speed and quickness to do that. So, man, I don't know. I'm not gonna put any predictions of production on here, but I think that by the end of the season, he might be out snapping Mario Edwards, um, and he might end up being one of the most impactful defensive players for Seattle. Across any positions, really. There's not going to be a bigger opportunity for him to contribute. With all the snaps they lost to defensive line this year, with Al Woods gone, Puna Ford gone, Quinn Jefferson, Shelby Harris, so LJ Collier. So all the snaps are his for the taking. I think he's going to make some noise with it.